Guys, good afternoon.
Hey,
Good
afternoon.
afternoon. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you, Donji.
Good to see you, Leanne.
Today, guys, we are going to talk about our habits, how we broke bad habits, and basically what have we let go of to serve Christ and to just follow Jesus.
Yeah, I think my story is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I had to let go of a couple of crazy things, and I had a gambling addiction.
Are you serious?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird, but yeah, I did. I had a casino gambling
Oh,
addiction.
wow.
Um, it started off as a friend taking me to a casino to experience it, and I just tried out a slot machine, and I thought it was just going to be like a quick in and out because he wanted to spend some time there.
Yeah.
But then he took me over to the table, and then before I knew it, I was making some quick money, and it seemed shocking at the time. So then before I knew it, I got hooked, and on the first day, second day we went over, made some money. Third day we lost it all, and then it felt like I could easily go back and make some more money.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing about the whole process was I found my other addictions and habits being, looked after by this habit because I could go to a casino and I would be looked after with my drinks. I could be looked after with smokes and things like. I can't believe I'm saying I smoked at some point.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, I had all these other bad habits. Like
Yeah.
I was an alcoholic.
Wow.
I was in so much stress. I was in because I was in debt. So I went through this whole process of smoking at some point because it seemed
Yeah.
like the right thing to do. Like it would help me get the edge off my chest. Then it all just crumbled down.
Yeah.
Everything just because the thing with habits is you keep eating into them, you keep feeding
Yeah.
into them, but they don't help. They're not beneficial. So I found myself really getting into it, and then I found myself in a crazy amount of debt. There's some bad decisions I made, and it just led me to a whole situation where I was really in debt. I couldn't graduate. I couldn't. I was when my family found out I was in crazy debt. I went from being the most looked up to person in my family to
Yeah.
being that guy.
Looked down upon.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's and it's bad when your aunt's neighbor calls you up and says, "Hey, dude, what happened?" And you're
Yeah.
just like, "Whoa," But
Yeah.
through the whole process, I believe that's where my transformation came in, and that's where I discovered my relationship with God. I had an encounter with God because that was a point in my life where I felt like no one cared. Me and my dad were not getting along very
Yeah.
well because he felt disappointed.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, my mom embraced me, and I believe God just used her in a remarkable way because
Yeah.
she embraced me, and I felt the love of God, and that was the beginning of my transformation. And at that point, I began to look at everything and reflect, and I had an opportunity to make a decision,
Yeah.
to either languish in that situation
Yeah.
or to move forward. And I
Yeah.
realized that God was the only way that I could make things right in my life. So I, 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 I didn't go back to the casino because it didn't work.
Yeah.
I quit smoking. I was still in a lot of debt though. It didn't just go away. But I went through this process of reaching out to God and leaning on Him. And before I knew it, it obviously didn't happen overnight, but
Yeah.
it was a process. And through it, I grew, and I found myself graduating.
Yay.
God just looked out for me.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing journey, but that's how I gave up some of my habits. I reached out to God, and I'm reminded of Paul, where he talks about everything is permissible,
Yeah.
but not everything is
It's
beneficial.
beneficial, exactly.
You know, so you like we have all these things, you know,
Yeah.
all these things at our disposal, but just because it's right in front of you doesn't make it right. It doesn't
Yeah.
make it, you know, okay to do. You know, like it's like we're all, you know, we're it's not illegal to smoke, but what's it going to do to
Is
your
it good
body?
for you?
Is it good for you? You know,
Yeah.
it's going to mess up your lungs. You know,
Yeah.
same thing with alcohol. Like it's permissible, but what's it going to do to your liver? You know,
Yeah.
in the long run. So when you begin to look at things like that, you sort of look at life differently.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's my story.
I'm sure it wasn't easy though, right?
No, it wasn't. It
Yeah.
was not. I think I had to deal with the battle of having people look at me weird
Yeah.
because no one expected it from me,
Right.
and I lost a lot of friends along the way.
Oh, that's good. Alicia?
It's interesting that you talk about how your addictions got you into debt.
Yeah.
Because that's my situation as well. My addictions or my bad habits got me into debt.
Oh my gosh.
I will use was because I'm a new creature.
Amen.
I was addicted to shopping.
Wow.
I was addicted to anything that will make me feel good. So
Yeah.
eating that, getting milkshakes, chocolate cakes, sweets. I was addicted to instant gratification
Yeah.
because I didn't want to allow myself to feel. So I didn't want to allow myself to feel low, depressed, or stressed. So instead of going through that feeling and having to take control of my emotions, I would use shopping
Yeah.
as a cover. If I feel depressed or if I feel stressed out about something or I'm anxious about something, I would go and buy that dress or
Yeah.
the shoes, or I would go and buy milkshakes, or I'd
Food.
go and, yes, just food.
Yeah.
And I'd use that just to dull the pain
Yeah.
or whatever. So it got to a point where I was going into debt because I was taking money from my business
Yeah.
and shopping, and then I wouldn't have money to, purchase new products or
Yeah.
stock or whatever, and then I'd be forced to borrow money from people so that I could buy stock, all because I had used the money on instant gratification.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I was just so frustrated. I knew I had a very unhealthy relationship with money,
Yeah.
and I was frustrated because I was like, I will never grow, I will never become wealthy, I will never get the financial stability that I crave if I continue with these bad habits. So I need to just face things head on.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna be depressed, let me be depressed and find a way to deal with that depression,
that, yeah.
rather than getting money from my account or from the business and going to use it to make myself feel good. And the thing with things like that is it's such a short high. Like, you go and buy that dress, and before when you buy these things, the high would last longer,
You get
but
over
as
it.
you continue doing it, it's shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
You buy that dress and you only like it for a day, and
Yeah.
then the following day you need more stuff.
Yeah.
You need more stuff. Like, it's not sustaining, and you're not dealing. And because now you've added frustration into everything else you're dealing with,
Yeah.
it's just like you start feeling overwhelmed. So I feel like God has just been speaking to me to
Yeah.
let me just let go of stuff and learn to trust Him.
Yeah.
And even when I don't know the outcome of something, let me just trust Him and know that at the end of the day, He wills for me so much better than I even will for myself.
Yes.
So I don't need to be stressed, I don't need to be depressed, and I don't need instant gratification. And I feel like from the past maybe even more than 2 weeks, starting from Activate, I feel like God has just been speaking to me. We
Yeah.
spoke about financial freedom, and Caroline Marsh spoke about instant gratification,
Yeah.
and allowing yourself certain things that you can treat yourself with, but not overdoing things.
Yeah.
And then Pastor on Sunday spoke about money habits and planning strategically. And then one thing that he mentioned was, it takes a lot of steps to undo one bad
Exactly.
thing. So I feel like for me to undo, I know this whole journey of my addictions and bad habits was a series of steps.
Yeah.
And so for me to overcome that, I need to start making a series of good steps. So for me now, success for me right now is when I pass a store and I feel like I don't need that right now.
Yes.
I still look at it like today. I saw a dress that I really liked, but I was like, I don't need that
it,
right
yeah.
now. I went into ShopRite and I told myself I was going to buy one item, and I walked into ShopRite and I walked out with that one item. I didn't overbuy. I didn't overspend. So for me, I think right now I'm just trusting God, letting go, allowing him to break me, because I know I'm not going to remain broken.
Yeah.
If it's coming from him, he's going to fix me and he's going to put me back together and he's going to mold me into something that I didn't even think was possible. So for me, I'm just looking ahead and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So no matter how dark it gets and how much I want to give up and go back to my old ways, I keep on telling myself, I can continue because there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's good. It's so funny that in Ndonji's habit, he spoke about what he lost. You know, he lost friends. He lost respect from family that at one point trusted him. He was a hero and, for lack of a better term, became a zero, you know. What do you think you lost from your habit? Because you see, somebody out there would think it's just shopping. I'm just buying a dress, I'm just buying food, I'm hungry, you know. But what do you think you lose out of having a habit? Or what do you think, perhaps sustaining that habit, what did you then lose?
Well, for me, sustaining that habit, the biggest thing I lost was peace.
Yeah.
I was never, ever at peace. I always needed to have something to make me feel
Yeah.
better. And then also, I felt like I had lost responsibility. Because then now my habits were going to support things I didn't need,
Yeah.
and I wasn't necessarily doing my part. One thing I feel guilty about is that I don't feel like I've done enough as a child for my parents,
Right.
because the money I was using to spend on all the dresses and whatever, I could have been getting groceries for my parents.
Yeah.
I could have been buying electricity at home. I could have been using it in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Like I could have been pushing kingdom agenda. So I feel like I lost responsibility and I lost peace. And you don't really see things, you think it's just a dress, you think it's just shopping.
Yeah.
But one thing Pastor said on Sunday was, you need to think, what am I sowing into?
Exactly.
Like, what is your money sowing into?
Yeah.
And that hit me hard because I felt like, okay, I go and spend 200 on a dress. What am I sowing into?
Yeah.
I could have used that money on something productive, like Kingdom Assignment,
Yeah.
where I know it's going towards something. I could have used that money in the home for my parents, knowing it's
Exactly.
going towards something. I could have used that money to help someone which is a real struggle. Everyone wants to go to school and everyone is battling with tuition fees. I could have used 200, seems like a little bit of money, but it's something towards another
Could have
amount.
saved it,
So I
yeah.
could have saved it. I could have helped someone in need. So I feel like it's just so frivolous, and I feel guilty about it. It also made me feel guilty
Yeah.
because I felt like it's just vanity at the end of the day, and I was just focusing on my outward appearance as opposed to dealing with my inside.
Yes.
And the Bible is clear. It says beauty is fleeting and it does fade. And so I
Exactly.
felt like I wasn't building who I am
Your inner
internally, my inner man. I was
Yeah.
just building my outer man, which is just a shell. It will fade. Anything can happen. So I think that's really what I took out of my habit, and that's what's fueling me to get out of it and stay out of it.
Yeah. I love that. And stay out of it. Yeah. So, so is it safe to say that somebody struggling with smoking or drinking or perhaps shopping, you know, and in fact, I don't think we should necessarily even put it as shopping, spending, you
Spending.
know, yeah,
Definitely
spending. And just,
spending.
I like how that shipway, you know, you have it and you just want it gone, you
It
know.
has to finish.
It has to finish, you know. Is it safe to say
Everything must go.
Everything must go, right?
Going money fast.
Right.
It's in and it's out.
Exactly. And like you get in so much debt, but is it safe to say that there's hope for somebody in this habit, in these type of habits?
There is hope. And I feel like the deceiving part about a habit and how, like he said,
Right.
you always feel like you can stop when you want to.
Yes.
It doesn't come boom and it's a habit. It's one of those things, it's a decision here, it's a decision there, and you feel
Yes.
like you're in control. You made those decisions and
Right.
you can stop when you want to. And then it gets to the point where you lose track and suddenly it's this enormous, gigantic struggle in your life that you can't just stop when you want to. But one thing that encouraged me, I was talking with my twin brother last week, and he was talking about, he had an alcohol addiction.
Right.
His addiction was really bad. And we're almost at the 2-year mark of him being sober.
Yay.
No alcohol for 2 years. And one thing he mentioned, he said he got to a point where he was so fed up with his habit. And
Right.
he looked to God and he says, please help me. Like,
Right.
please help me. And for me, I had never thought of it that way. And it humbled me because I felt like I had thought my issue was such a small thing.
Right.
It was so frivolous for me to go to God and say, help me with my spending.
Right.
Because I felt like God would be like, really, Alicia, people have real problems. Like,
Exactly.
like really.
Yes.
But then I realized that no, he does hear, and if it's an issue for you, then don't downplay it. Like
Exactly,
it is
yes.
an issue. So no matter how small it can be to one person, it's huge for you.
Right.
And if it's stopping you from living a free, a life full of freedom, financial freedom,
Yeah.
like full of peace, then it needs to come to an end.
Yes.
So I just told God, like, I know you have great plans for me.
Yes.
And if I have great plans for myself, I can only imagine what plans you have for me. And I won't reach my full potential if I'm battling with
Yes.
this habit. So I need you to help me. I need you to step in. I need you to break me down. And I just need you to come through and fix this situation, fix this mess
Yeah.
that I've gotten myself into.
Yeah.
Another reason why I felt I couldn't go to God to ask him to help me is because I felt I took full responsibility of my habit, and I said, it's my fault. Why should he come in
Right.
and clean up my
Yeah.
mess? But then at the end of the day, isn't that what parents do?
Yes,
They come in
exactly.
and they fix your mess. They'll
Yes.
tell you don't play with fire. You go and
When
play
you
with
get
fire. When you
burnt.
get burnt, they will still come and they'll put that ointment and they'll still put the Band-Aid
fix you,
and they'll still
yeah.
comfort you until you feel better. So it got to a point where I just released it and I was like, God, you need to step in, help me. I know I messed things up, but you
Yeah.
need to come and sort my mess out. So to answer your question, there is hope.
Yes.
There is hope.
Yeah. If there's one thing that I get from this discussion is that the first thing that we must do is admit that we have a habit,
Yes.
you know, and don't downplay it because what seems small to you or small to somebody else is big for you.
Yeah.
And acceptance. And when you accept that that thing is a challenge, then that's the only way you can go to God and ask him.
Yes.
You ask him for help, and that's the only way that he'll come in and free you from it, I guess. Right? Ish, this was deep, guys. This was deep.
So I feel like part of dealing with a bad habit or combating a bad habit, I feel that, which is kind of helping for me, is finding accountability partner.
Yeah.
So if it's helpful to open up to people, like you said,
Yes.
you've opened up to people. I've opened up to certain people about my habit. So if you have that one friend or that one person that you look up to who can set you straight and tell you things that you don't necessarily need to hear at that point
Yeah.
or want to hear, but that person is a person you look up to, so you will respect their opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to find that person who will say, who will catch you like when you're struggling, who will just keep you going and keep on reminding you on what you're working
Yeah.
towards. And in times when you feel low and you feel like, oh, I need to go shop or I need to gamble, that person will set you straight and be like,
Yeah.
no,
No.
we're not doing this, we're not doing this. And I feel like we need to have check-ins with
Yes.
our accountability partners. You know, it can be if your addiction is that bad that every day you can't do without that habit. It should go from a point where you have daily check-ins to maybe weekly check-ins to
Yeah.
monthly check-ins to quarterly check-ins, and just to monitor your progress. And I think it helps to track your progress to see how far you've come, where you were. So definitely, if you're struggling with a habit, I feel like you do need an accountability partner.
I feel like something I always remember is Pompey's song, the silence song, you know. What the devil wants is for you to be silent, you know. So when you speak what you want to see, and it's you give it power. And if you say, I am done, I want to be healed, I want God to help me, I want, you know, somebody to come through and just help me, I feel like you've then spoken it out and you give power, just like you said, you get that freedom of just mentioning that you had a habit, you know. So, wow. And we're done. Guys,
It's a
thank
wrap.
you so much.
It's been
Thank
good.
you. Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
has been.